Military carried out massive precision strikes on the three key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime, Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
Obliterated. Jesus Christ.
Obliterated, yes.
All right. So, according to Washington Post, has put out a special report on this. This was actually updated just about 16 minutes ago. It says Iran attacks U.S. military base in Qatar in retaliation for strikes on nuclear facilities. Iran launched a missile attack on a U.S. military base in Qatar on Monday in retaliation for U.S. strikes on key Iranian nuclear sites. Qatar condemned the attack, which it said its air defenses intercepted. Explosions were reported in the sky over the Qatari capital Doha, which is about 20 miles northeast of Al Udeid Air Base, the forward headquarters for U.S. Central Command and home to about 10,000 troops. The Pentagon is not aware of any U.S. injuries or deaths resulting from Iran's attack. U.S. defense officials said, acknowledging that the strike involved short-range, medium-range ballistic missiles. I have a very simple question for you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is the United States at war?
Well, technically, no. Like you have just quoted from which media organization now?
This was Washington Post.
Okay, and it's what has been trending in most international news outlets. Throughout the day. And what we know is that today, Iran was able to fire 10 missiles at that Qatari base, a military base, where 10,000 U.S. troops are. 9 of those 10 were actually intercepted. One landed, but it was maybe some third, not impacting anything. That said, we also find out that some American assets in places like Bahrain and these other place was actually targeted. We're actually targeted. But the good thing is that America is well positioned to protect itself. Now, this is one military action that it's been called that really showed the other side of President Donald Trump. Is somebody I've always loved to suffer with so much joy and gladness, thinking that is not able to reason beyond certain level, maybe that of an elementary pupil. But this man that we often underrate has shown to all of us that people who appear simple, who appear jittery, who appear unstable, may really be people you do not underestimate. Look at the planning of the whole thing, in its execution, the decoy, the distraction. When he was saying, "Oh, maybe within 2 weeks I may and I may not," nobody knew that something was already in the works. And by 6:40 something p.m. local time on Saturday, action was on. Do not forget that everybody was thinking that, okay, he was brokering. He was calling Iran for some mediatory talks.
For negotiations.
For negotiations. But nobody actually knew that the whole world, or let me say America, felt that Iran's cup was full and had begun to run over concerning the desire and the ambition to have enriched uranium and nuclear capability. And they felt with the way Iran had been going, that to leave them to continue to be the, what's it called, sustained torment on everybody in the Middle East would not be proper. So while Israel and Iran were having their face-off, I think America's calculation, they haven't said this, but also you can make this deduction from what we know, that, I mean, from what had been said so far, was that to leave Iran to run amok with its nuclear capabilities. That's why you find those B-50, what's it called? B-20 aircrafts from nearby Missouri here, taking off, first flying elsewhere as a decoy, as a distraction, and then quietly, you know, the way they move, the stealth bombers, the way they move with supersonic and suppressed noise, went for what they had to do. Some reports were saying 12 of such stealth bombers were deployed, but at the end of the day, at least we can say maybe 7 did the job. And they went for, I mean, they went with their 30,000 pound, more than 30,000 pound bunker busting bombs, which they unloaded on those facilities that had been developed right in the belly of the of certain rocks and heads right there. So the issue is, why did America really make sure that this was done after the stock markets had closed that day? I mean, for the weekend and before the start of stock market the following morning. Is because they needed to send the right signal to the entire world. Absolutely. That we are not at war. America is not at war. And number two, that this is okay. It's just to make sure that somebody has, or a country has, or the theocrats known as the mullahs, the Ayatollah running, Ayatollah Khamenei running that Islamic Republic, has some brain reset. And that's why they did so, because the action took place right after stock market had closed, right before some stock markets opened the following day. You find relative stability in the stocks all over the world. That is one major calculation right there. Absolutely. The other one, everybody has been asking the question, instead of oil prices stumbling all over the world because of the strategic attacks on oil fields and capabilities of Iran, and then the Russian-Ukrainian conflict too going on, and Russia being a major oil producing country, that by now oil price should have spiked from $75 at some point last week, while those toxic rhetorics were on. Instead, today it has plummeted to about $67. Why that? It is because some countries that had placed order, they are beginning to shed the load of their purchases. So a kind of glut in that system. Instead of stocking supply that would outpace demand, here now, demand is far short of supply. So the prices are stumbling. It therefore means that beyond the way we have always underrated Donald Trump as somebody who reasons like a kindergartner, The guy's really got something hidden somewhere. And
Well, could it be because the executive office is bigger than any one person? He has obviously advisors all over around him.
well,
Could it be
even in
that?
this case,
Not to belittle him, but I'm just saying, could that also be part of it?
no, you don't even find any technocrats around him other than his political acolytes and what's it called? Apologists. For example,
Oh, okay.
his MAGA chieftain, Steve Bannon. It's not for this action. You know, he doesn't support this action at all. And they have always felt that Donald Trump, who said he will not go to war, will keep things small. All of a sudden, it's now the person that is clapping about containing or taking an action, which
I mean, well,
which none of his predecessors have been able to really initiate in the
well,
past
we also
since
know
1978, 79.
we also know that Donald Trump likes to gloat about his power. I mean, even if you look at the way he made that statement after the attack, you know he really enjoyed that. And just as of
don't forget that this guy is a TV showman. He's about the showmanship. To him, it's almost like
if it's going to be about his showmanship, he'll be for it.
It's almost like appearing on NBC's apprenticeship that made him so famous. So everything is TV up. It's TV opportunity for him.
Exactly.
So yes, I mean, I quite agree with you. I quite agree with you the way he came on the silver screen and describing what had just taken place. The operation, is it Midnight Hammer, something like that. So he described it as something like never before, a spectacular military accomplishment or operation. That is Donald Trump for you.
Let me read this for you. Let me read this for you.
Right.
About 1 hour ago, as an update to that Washington Post article, Joshua Yang said President Donald Trump described Iran's missile attack on U.S. airbase in Qatar as and I quote, very weak response, a retaliation for U.S. strikes on key Iranian nuclear sites. Trump said on Truth Social Monday that Iran gave the U.S. early warning, which made it possible for no lives to be lost and nobody to be injured. And then another guy, Adam Taylor, says in a string of social media posts on Monday, President Donald Trump appeared to signal a de-escalation of tensions with Iran, writing that Tehran seems to have gotten it all out of their system with its telegraphed and limited attack on U.S. forces in Qatar, and encouraging Iran and Israel to seek peace and harmony in the region. Congratulations, world, it's time for peace, he wrote on one Truth Social.
Yeah, that is almost in line with what we said. You saw, I mean, the way he really played it down, the weak retaliatory
weak response.
I said the thing landed with a third. With a thought. I mean, such insignificant sand and impact there. But beyond that, the Ayatollah Khamenei in Tehran should now begin to, because so much lies have been told about that country. You're talking of a country with Persian civilization of more than 3,000 years, unbroken history. That is phenomenal. It is phenomenal. It's almost like the history of Yoruba race, where you and I originally belonged in Africa.
Yeah.
You know, before the Olamurudu that is known as Nimrod, and what other name in Nimrod in Genesis chapter 10, the father of Oduduwa. More than 10,000 years, people who would calculate. So you're talking of the civilization of Persia. I have friends from Iran all over America. They tell me, "Oh, I'm a Christian from Iran." Somebody says, "Oh, I'm Persia." All these civilizations constituting about 20% of the population of that country, they are suppressed. Every day you hear of Islamic Republic of Iran. Nonsense. He needs to unify his country. This will rally the LA Christian Church that is still surviving today in Iran to also, say that they are relevant. This is what Iran must do. Pursuing some hegemonic superiority in the Middle East does not help the cause of the people of that country. And thank God, we find out very quickly that Donald Trump is not aiming at regime change. But if the tension is becoming so unbearable internally, the people, because it will be a violation of international laws and norms for America or Israel to want to kill the president or the, what's it called, the leader of that country, the supreme leader of that country. But if the people, through insurrection internally, decide to do that, it will be a sad day. Already, that region of the world has witnessed so much cataclysm and tension over the years. Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, and so on and so forth. The Egyptian riots and revolution. So at this point, everybody should shoot the sword, look inwards instead of pursuing some expansionist agenda and trying to sponsor terrorists all over the place. The impact of which we also feel in faraway places like Nigeria and the Sahel. Iran should be inward looking. And some of our public commentators in Africa ought to tone down their rhetoric.
Have you seen some stuff?
Yes, they ought to tone down their rhetoric. You cannot hide under your roof and then break a neck. But when a push comes to shove, issues often come to the man who says, "Oh, I'm just staying under my roof, JJ." The rhetorics on the part of our people are becoming too toxic, no matter how you look at it.
Sorry, what's the main crux of what they've been saying?
What they've been saying is to see America as the imperial policeman of the world. What they have been saying is to see Israel as the aggressor in this matter. And what they have been saying is never to see Iran's culpability in sponsoring all kinds of terrorist cells all over. For example, as America landed its bunker busters on those strategic nuclear facilities in Iran, you notice what the Tehran leadership said. They said they will activate their sleepy cells of terrorists in the United States and all over the place. Who talks like that? They are cutting your finger, you are still saying you have to put in a ring. That is being utterly recalcitrant. It's like you are beating hollow, and yet you are saying, "Oh, you fight better when your back is on the ground." The truth of the matter is that America has got this awesome might, but what we always discuss between us as Americans, because when things like this happen, we are all united behind the Spangled Banner, behind our flag. Yes, we may disagree in our politics, but when it comes to retarding enemies, foreign and homegrown, we are united as a country. So this is why I'm saying our public commentators, journalists, opinion is free, but do not manufacture facts. Let's
round this on.
Yeah.
Let's round it up, sir.
So this is all I can say about the situation. But I know Donald Trump has impacted the situation. By now, I think.
So, in your opinion, he delivered on this one. He delivered on this one.
Oh, straight.
Okay.
Straight. Yeah.
All right.
So what I expect is that Iran should now begin to crave some negotiations and deal that would put a definitive stop to this shenanigan.
All right, let us know. Join the conversations. We run completely out of time, so I don't know what we're gonna do with our third story here, but let's just hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications, and we will think about coming right back.